Hello, welcome. WR Frady here. Hope you're having a wonderful day and had a good week so far. We're going to jump on here. I'm going to change things up a little bit. And this time, I've been promising you some stories from the world of Areth and some of the Lord. First, let's give you a quick update of how things are going with the map. Alright. Anyway, let's flip you around and take a look at what we have to offer. Oh, let me get this thing free here. There we go. Alright, as you can see, I have been filling in maps. You see this area down here where the map, the gray of the mountains is like I've been showing you before. Now, let's take a look at this, starting from the very top. See that? I've been doing the shading on the sides of the mountains. And man, you can just see where these mountains are starting to pop up. It's almost as if they're wanting to stand up on the mountain, the map itself. Which is adding a beautiful, rich texture to the realm itself. I've only got a few more mountain ranges to do. But look at that. Look at how that just stands up and stands out. That is going so much better than I had anticipated. Alright, now I'm going to flip. Alright, shaky. Alright, let's do this and get you tightened back up. Alright, now before I get started, the music in the background is various artists of fantasy music from Everune, Valkyrian, Harp of the Elven Wood? Score Wizard, Harp of the Elven Wood, and Moonlicks, as well as many other, Celestial Eon Project, and so on. So, if any of you out there that are associated with these groups or happen to be watching this, thank you so much for the music that you provide. That is such an inspiration to what I'm doing. I deeply appreciate it, and it goes to show how much what you do as artists contribute to what artists like myself and others, including those that are very well known, know. And one day I will be out there well known. So when that'll happen, who knows? We'll see. But perhaps you folks can make the difference in that. Anyway, I'd like to share with you tonight some stories that are part of the lore of the world of Areth. This goes beyond Loren and the continent of Loren. Actually, one of the stories is a part of Loren, but is tied directly to this first story, which I'm going to tell, this first piece of lore. And those that I'm going to tell tonight are the stories of the Maiden of the Stars, which is a very much one of my favorite pieces of lore concerning Areth, the world of Areth, the Imperia, the Sea of Endless Night. And this goes to show why I always tell people that Loren and the world of Areth is pretty much my lifelong project and passion, because it is such a rich world of mythology, legend, history. It's got a rich universe that is expansive and goes back to the beginnings of all things. Uh, if you want to read that, I would suggest read the Furnace of Loren. And the Furnace of Loren tells the absolute beginning of everything. And you can find that on ebenstone-tower.com. However, the Maiden of the Stars is one of the stories that takes place in long before Areth and in the realm of Imperia, the Sea of Endless Night. The following story is a part of Loren and is the legend of Thillion's Mountain and the lovers of Thillion's Mountain. Again, this ties in with that first story, which you'll see when I present it. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right. Now, the story of the Maiden of the Stars is the legend passed to the sages of Miralon from the Dinir. Now, the Dinir are the noble gods of Areth, and they were created from the hairs of Anno's head. Now, Anno is the creator, as you may have heard me mention time before. Now, as it goes, once upon a time, in ages long past, long before Areth or anything that is in recorded or known history, there lived a lady of such beauty and grace on another of Anno's worlds that Anno himself was captivated by her. And such was his love for her that he treated her with all the favor and grace and just all the privileges afforded by a good husband to the wife of whom he loves. So this woman, this lady, be she mortal or deity or diva, which none know for sure, had captivated the heart of the very creator of all worlds. And so he treated her with a favor unlike any other. And he loved this lady. So, Areth, the destroyer, and Anno's twin brother, felt his brother's heart and the love that he had for this lady. And in his vengeance and in his utmost hatred for his brother, he sent a wayward comet wanting to see to the destruction of this world personally himself. He sent a wayward comet hurtling into the world where she lived, destroying it. Anno, being away and working on creating other worlds and building other realms of Imperia, heard the cries and the torments of that world, especially that of his beloved. And before, by the time he had gotten there, their world had been obliterated, had been completely destroyed. And Anno was so grieved, so heavy and grieved by the loss of his loved one, that the very heavens of Imperia wept. So, for the first time since Areth's exile, he had inflicted such pain on Ano that it was almost unbearable. But Ano took his grieving and his in the shattered bits of his love, and he took her essence along with the dust of the comet that had destroyed her world, and took them to the Forge of Worlds that was once the furnace of Loren, and he mingled the two inside the flames, inside the Forge of Worlds. And excuse me one second. He sustained her life. The fires of the furnaces of Areth, the furnace of Loren's flames, and the life-giving essence that it was, mingled and melded the maiden's essence and the comet and even its own ashes into something spectacular. You see, like the furnace of Loren, who gave Ano and Areth's life, the maiden, Ano's maiden, became a stellar nursery where stars would be born and life would begin for worlds all around. And seeing her beauty restored only in a celestial form, he kissed her gently and poured his love into her, so that she would glow and grow in power and compassion. And then he placed her in the depths of Imperia, where she would bring light and brightness and a sense of life-giving love to that realm of Imperia, to that realm of her area of the endless sea of night, or the sea of endless night. Let me say that again. Anyway, now there her grace and her beauty would shine brightly forevermore. Now, according to legend in the Scrolls of Imperia, and according to the Scrolls of Oraclean Hall in Almatheria, which is the celestial home of the Denier, Solarius, the very sun that lights Areth's cerulean heavens and brings life-giving warmth and heat to Areth, is actually one of the Maiden's starlings. So, but that knowledge can only be verified if one enters the realm of Almatheria and visits Oraclean halls and reads the scrolls to find out for sure. However, that is still a legend passed through the sages. According to the sages of Miralon, it has been passed in from the Denier themselves. And that is the realm of the Maiden. That is the Maiden of the Stars. Now, the Maiden of the Stars is also one of the constellations you see that can be seen from the continent of Loren, the island of Igraine, and on Gelanor. And because you can see the Maiden of the Stars, the Maiden of the Stars, you will see her smiling face in the sky, in the form of her eyes, where her nose should be, and the smile of her lips. And so it is said that the Maiden is always smiling down upon Areth. However, each, like all constellations, every realm has a different name for her. But that's a story for another time. Okay. Now, for the lovers of Thilion's Mountain, our second piece of lore tonight, and as I said, this piece of lore is connected to the Maiden of the Stars, which you'll hear and you'll understand why. So sit back and listen and heed. It's said that if two hearts embrace under the last light of Thilion's day on Thilion's Mountain, that their love will gain the strength, that their hearts would embrace and gain the strength of a mountain. And that if two hearts were to be wed on Thilion's day, theirs would receive a similar blessing, that their love would last forevermore. So how did this come to be? See, once upon a time, there was, in the realm of Vethros, there was a man named Thilion and his beloved Rosalind. Now, their love and devotion to one another was so strong and so deep and powerful that neither man, beast, God, nor even death itself could keep them apart. And while trials came, and from both forces, natural and infernal, their love had been proven that it would not be sundered. Rather, like a perfect gem, their love was polished to perfection rather than worn down. And so it came that as their love and devotion grew throughout time, and they aged together, in their late ages, Rosalind fell deathly ill, and Thilion could not bear the thought of losing his lifelong love, whom he had poured all of his heart, his soul, his love, his compassion into. And he could not bear the thought of being separated her, even by death. And so he prayed that night to the Danir, knowing that his beloved Rosalind had only very little time left. He prayed to the Danir, and he begged for them to not take her, to even take his life in place of hers, so that she could live happily, healthily, and just be full of love. Of course, he didn't know that if he passed instead of her, that very likely she would have passed for him as well, because her love for him was as equally as strong as his for her. And because of this, the words of their blessing fell, and the words of his prayers were not just heard by the Danir, but by Ano himself. Now, Ano is not always overly involved with the overseeings of things that go on in Areth. I mean, he's there, here and there, back and forth. But it takes something very spectacular and rare for Anno to fully involve himself in the affairs of things on Areth, when that is left to the Denier to maintain and manage, as that is their domain which he gave them dominion over. Now, that being said, Anno heard this man's prayer and his pleas, even in his devotion of such measure that Anno looked and saw their story written in the scroll, amid the scrolls of Heraclean Hall. And so he took upon himself to glance over that story, and Anno himself felt touched as the love between Thelian, let me get my mouth words around it, as Thelian love for his Rosalind reminded him so deeply of his love for the Maiden of the Stars. And so, taking some of the ash from the Forge of Worlds and Aren's flames, he sprinkled it over Thelian and Rosalind, healing her and restoring their youth to their bright and youthful days. And he bade them take one final night of love with one another and share your love with each other like you've never shared it before. Given the opportunity to hold his Rosalind and Rosalind to hold her Thelian one last time in such a compassionate, loving embrace, and to be able to share in one another as they had in their youth, they accepted Anno's blessing. And as they slept that night, Anno came to them and took them away from this world, and took them away so that death could never claim them and separate them ever again. And so, while they slept in his care, he took out his tools and carved a mountain in their likeness, the likeness of lovers embraced in one another's arms, that would forever be a symbol upon that land of the power, the absolute power of love and devotion of such magnitude that it captured the attention of the very Creator. Once the sculpting was done, he took their forms and placed their immortal spirits inside of that mountain. Thus came Thelian's mountain. And with that blessing also came Thelian's day, the day that it was completed, the day that everyone woke up and Thelian's mountain was there where a mountain, just a mountain, stood before. And with that mountain came the legend and the blessing that fell on Thelian's day. So that is the story of Thelian's mountain, of the lovers of Thelian's mountain and the lovers of Thelian's mountain. So now every year people come from, every year folks, couples come from realms all over to Thelian's mountain to pledge their love, especially pledge their love in matrimony, such that their love can last the tests of time and be as immortal as Thelian and Rosalind themselves. And it was said that when it was all said done, the Maiden of the Stars herself smiled. All right. I hope you enjoyed these stories. I hope you enjoyed this couple of legends from the world of Areth and its surrounding the Imperia, the Sea of Endless Night, if I could actually speak, because it seems words wants to fail me right now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed these stories, and I look forward to getting on here maybe on times like this and just taking a different break from the mapping and all that, just to kind of give a little bit of insight to the worlds that I'm building. I may do the same with Alderun. I may do the same with some of the other stuff that I'm working on. But with the love and the compassion I have for the world of Areth and all that involves that world, with the continent of Loren, the island of Igraine, continent of Gelinor, and so on, I love being able to sit here and share in the rich history of that realm and that world, because getting to experience and see the legends, the myths, everything that has made that world such a living, and it's like a living and breathing entity to me, because it has formed so much of itself in its own stories and everything that it has brought it to life. There are times when I tell the story of things that are going, and then it tells me the stories that shaped it into what it is. And it's like, I don't know, there's a beauty to the world of Areth that I cannot describe, except for I see Areth as a father sees a child, and it, especially his very most beloved child, whom he is watching and taking pride in their growth and how they are developing and what they're forming and ultimately will be. And I honestly hope that many years down the road, Areth will be one of the great worlds that are a major part of the literary history, that right there alongside of Tolkien and Tamriel and Narnia and all these wonderful stories and all these wonderful worlds that have been created for us to enjoy over the years. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stay tuned for more. Also, on a last note, I'm getting ready to start recording for W.R. Frady's Friday Night Frights. So some of my videoing for world building and stuff may take a brief hiatus during that time. It's not anything other than I'm having to focus on things that are seasonal nature, but you ought to know that I'm going to be right back with it, and we are going to be here because I am so excited to share this journey and the stories that come with this journey with you guys. All right, everyone, have a good evening. I hope that you enjoyed this. Again, the music comes from Moonlix and Everone and Realm Shifter, as well as Score Wizard, Celestial Eon Project. It's a various artists list for, basically it's a fantasy music for writing playlist on Spotify. And again, I'd like to thank all of the artists that have contributed to this and playlists like this that have been an immaculate inspiration in setting the mood and tone when I'm world building, and helps feed the imagination that comes with it. All right, everyone, have a good evening. I will see you again next time. This is W.R. Frady saying, keep dreaming, keep creating. Remember, you've got your own story to tell. And it might be a love story as beautiful as the Lovers of Thelian's Mountain, or it might be something as creative and as wondrous as anything that any author, myself or any other, or R.A. Salvatore or Tolkien and him have ever even thought of creating. Because there's a lot of really good writers, there's a lot of really good artists, and not all of them are known about just yet. And there's some of them that could probably blow our minds in what they're able to do. So if you're one of those, man, I look forward to seeing what you're capable of. Because who knows who you might inspire. Anyway, I will see you again soon. Guys, I loved having you guys join me. We'll see you next time.